This podcast is sponsored by Phenomatch, finding the most suitable donor with the matching tool for the best teams.
Hello, and welcome to the Fertility Conversations podcast. The goal of this podcast is to create more awareness about infertility and to provide support to people trying to conceive. Thank you for listening today, and we hope you will be encouraged. And now, here is your host, Ola.
Welcome to another episode of the Fertility Conversations. Today we're joined by two lovely guests, Andrea and Elin, and they're the founders of the fertility app, BUMPY. They join us today to share their fertility journey and the inspiration behind their app, as well as how you can use their app wherever you are around the world to navigate your fertility journey. So welcome, Andrea and Elin, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, and thank you.
Hi.
Yay. Thank you so much for being here. So to start off, we usually say, tell us a little bit about yourself, as much or as little as you'd like to share.
Great. I can start.
All right.
Yeah, my name is Elin. I always find it so hard when you're introducing yourself. How big would you make it or where would you start? But yeah, I'm originally from Sweden, CEO and co-founder of BUMPY. And yeah, my passion for BUMPY and the fertility journey comes from my own experience. I've been going through infertility for a long time, been spending 10 years doing IVF treatments in Sweden and abroad. And me and my husband have been going through multiple miscarriages. And I always felt very lonely on this journey. So I felt like I wanted to create the space where people can meet and talk to each other and also help others to find the right fertility clinic.
Yeah, and hi, my name is Andrea. I'm the co-founder of BUMPY. And just like Elin, I've had a very long and still ongoing journey of infertility. I was actually confronted when I was only 16 with infertility itself. And I'm one of 4,000 women that is born without a functioning uterus. So yeah, that topic came along very early in my life. And then also been going through many IVF treatments to try and collect eggs and freeze embryos in both Australia, but also in Sweden. And also was one of the first in the world to have a uterus transplanted from a deceased donor just 3 years ago, which was amazing. All my hopes and dreams were so close, but yet so far. And unfortunately, that didn't work out for me either. So yeah, still on this journey.
Thank you so much, both of you, for giving me a brief about yourselves. I'm so sorry, Elin, about your losses. Thank you for both using your experiences to provide a community to support others currently navigating their journeys. So I'm not sure if you'd like to share more about your experience. I know, Andrea, you mentioned that about your condition without being born with the functional uterus. Is that MRKH? Is that the condition? And would you like to share more about your journey so far?
That is exactly right. I mean, for me, that, as I said, I found out because I didn't get a period and everyone else did. And I turned 16 and I still didn't have a period. So then went to the gynecologist and got my diagnosis. That's kind of how it happened. I'm laughing about it now. It was not so funny then. But I think as a teenager specifically, that is really confronting because you, of course, going through a lot of body changes and going into puberty, and you want to be like everyone else. You don't want to be any different. And even though it's not a visible difference, it's still something that will affect you later in life, right? So yeah, it was a difficult, but also in some way I was relieved, actually, because getting the diagnosis, I knew I finally had an answer. Okay, this is why I don't have a menstruation. And now I can just, actually, the way I dealt with this is I just told my friend I got it. That was my way of dealing with it, and not talk about it. Not saying it's the best way, but at the time that felt like the best way for me. So yeah.
But that must have been pretty hard, right? Because I mean, who was even speaking about then? Do you even know anyone else that had the same condition? And
yeah, no, I didn't, because actually this was, I mean, I'm 37 now, and well, a long way back. This was before social media. This was before Facebook. This was before any of the technology existed. And I mean, I think I just got my first mobile phone, and we know how mobile phones looked then. So
funky.
Yeah, there was no real, I mean, community. So there was nothing out there to connect with others. So actually, the very first time I met someone with the same condition as me was through BUMPY. So not that long ago. And that was, that was quite amazing in a sense. And now I've met through BUMPY actually 3 other people that have the same condition. And I mean, this condition is very, I mean, it affects your fertility, right? So when you're a teenager, I think the hardest part is that you want to fit in and you want to be like everyone else, and you want to just have your period and use tampons. Like that seems like a big thing. Of course, everyone else thinking like, oh, that must be amazing, not having to go through that every month. And I think that was the worst thing that people actually said to me, like when it was in my early 20s and I told my friends about it. Oh, you're so lucky you don't have a period. It's like, no, that's not how it feels like.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm not sure what more to share about it, but I think nowadays I know there's a lot of communities actually out there for people with this condition, so they really can connect with others. And I think, people deal with this very differently, but I think it would have been so helpful in my case to have someone else. That would have been the best thing, because even though it was hush hush in my family, I didn't want to talk to my siblings about it. I didn't want to talk to my friends about it. I wanted to talk to someone that has exactly the same thing and that understands it. And I didn't have that opportunity then. But nowadays, thanks to technology, this is possible. So no one will have to go through this alone going forward, which is amazing.
Exactly. And that makes such a huge difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And Elin, did you want to share more about yourself, about your journey, before we move forward to speaking more about your app?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I have a very different story from Andrea, obviously. So I first realized that me and my husband were going to be challenged with this. Not actually when we had the first miscarriage. So 10 years ago, we had the first one. And the first time it happened, and I started reading about it and realizing that it's actually pretty common. So I wasn't too devastated, because we were lucky that it happened quickly for us. So we thought back then that we could decide when you're having a family, and it worked quickly. But then when this started repeating itself month over month, and it was when I had, I think, my 3rd miscarriage, and when obviously that's also when you say medically that you should go and check if something is wrong. That's when we realized that this might actually become a problem. And then years passed by, and we were just experiencing miscarriages over and over again. I had what you call the regular miscarriages. We had missed abortion, and then on my miscarriage number 8, I went through an ectopic pregnancy, and that was really traumatic for me, because every time in the beginning, when I first got pregnant, and I called the gynecologist to tell them, and like, what's the next step? When should I come in for an ultrasound? And I called them to tell them I had a miscarriage. They said, oh, that's okay, tough luck, but yeah, come back next time you're pregnant. So I was like, okay, that's how they are treating miscarriages in the health field. So I started having really bad pains, but no one ever told me that watch out for these symptoms. If you're having really bad pain, if you're throwing up, that's not normal. But no one had warned me for it. So I thought that, okay, this too will pass and it will be just like the other miscarriages. But then lately I was in so much pain and I went into the emergency room and they had to do a very quick surgery to remove my fallopian tube. And it wasn't until after that I realized that that's actually a very serious condition. If you're experiencing an ectopic pregnancy, that the fallopian tube can burst, you get lots of blood in your stomach, and it can actually become life-threatening. But no one had told me about it. So yeah, and also during this time, as I mentioned quickly in the presentation, that I felt very lonely and no one to talk to. So yeah, that's kind of my background story. And again, the reason why me and Andrea met was also over the topic that we both went through very different things, but we had the same feelings of the loneliness, not having anyone to talk to. And just like Andrea said, I felt like the closest people around me, they didn't get me. They didn't understand. They could say that they understood, but I knew deep inside, like they don't know what it is I'm talking about. So I also felt so much more relieved when finding others who understood what it was to go through a miscarriage. And a miscarriage is not just like how they talk about it in the medical field, like that's just the bleeding. No, that's dreams and hopes. You have a name, you have like your whole future planned out when you're realizing that you're pregnant. So it was so nice to finally meet people also through BUMPY that had the same experiences.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And again, so sorry about your losses. That must have been really horrific and heartbreaking going through that one after the other. And again, I think the medical field, you just need to have better support because, again, like you said, the losses are people's dreams. So just saying, well, it happens, try again, it's not good enough. And sometimes they need to do more investigations and see perhaps what might be causing it. So
yeah, that was, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry, no, just to add to that, because that was such a big surprise for me, how they treated that. I just still don't understand to this day, because we talk to so many of our users in the app that experience the same thing, that like having issues to become pregnant or going through this kind of traumatic experiences or miscarriages are treated just like that's something we should know how to cope with. Yeah. You're not offered any kind of support, no one to talk to. And it's, of course, yeah, it's traumatic in many ways. So, yeah, and especially coming from Sweden, we always want to put ourselves in the forefront when it comes to the private health sector, etc. But when it comes to the infertility, we actually, yeah, we just don't have enough support.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing. And of course, that brings us to BUMPY. And both yourself and Andrea have mentioned the fact that in your different journeys, there wasn't support. You didn't really know anyone else that was dealing with it. So what was the inspiration? How do you both meet and decide to start this app?
Yeah, so we actually met through a common friend, and we met several times actually before we connected, and we never talked about just like you people still don't do when it's still highly stigmatized, right? So we never talked about it, but we kind of knew each other. I don't know, when you're going through infertility, you just can point out the other people that are going through the same thing. So we kind of knew, and then when we finally started opening up to each other about it, we just really connected and bonded over that. And then, yeah, I mentioned earlier that I had a uterus transplant in 2020. And when that kind of all went sour, and I got really, really, really ill, and recovering back from that, we both just decided that we wanted to do something in this field and like support others that are going through this very difficult journey, whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be. Everyone has a completely unique experience and a completely different journey, but we all have sort of the same feelings. There's not a lot of support around. What do you do? What step should I do next? There's so little information. It's very fragmented. So we just wanted to start off with create a community where people can connect with each other. That was kind of the initial thought of when we founded BUMPY. And then, quite quickly we discovered we want to help people like navigate the journey. So, okay, I'm experiencing hard times with fall pregnant, or I'm going through a miscarriage. What should I do now? What's the next step? Who do I go see? Do I go see a gynecologist? Do I go to my healthcare center? Which clinic shall I choose? So there's so many aspects of this journey that you have no idea about. So that's kind of the problem that we're trying to solve. We're trying to help people find the right clinic based on their needs, and also enhance with reviews from real people.
Amazing. And the reality is that so many things you highlighted there are so important for people navigating fertility journeys. Like, people can say, yeah, there's so many clinics and everyone seems to be good. But the reality is that not everyone is specialized in whatever your situation is for that person. Not everyone might be empathetic. Some clinics, not so much. Some people don't respond to you in time. So some people are just not as great as might appear. So knowing other people that have gone to those clinics can be really helpful. And of course, connecting with others. So for anyone listening, these are big parts of anyone navigating fertility journeys. They makes a huge difference. And of course, connecting with others that understand. So Elin, who are those that can use the app, and can anyone across the globe access the app?
Yeah, so until today, we have launched in all European markets. So we're focusing on Europe for now.
Nice.
Obviously, for obvious reasons, living here, knowing the markets, both me and Andrea have been traveling to various countries to do the research. And that's also one thing that was very interesting for me, for my own life, was that when the doctors in Sweden told me that we needed to go abroad because we have very limited tools in Sweden on what you can do when it comes to testing of the embryos, for example. And I asked him, it's like, yeah, we're happy to go abroad, but where should we go? And he said, well, I don't know, go home and Google. And we're like, what? Like, is that what you get from the doctor? And he just said, like, well, I can give you the top 5 countries, and then you go home and choose your clinic. So that was also something that was completely new to me. So for anyone who is like in the situation where you have to travel abroad, we're adding more and more clinics. Today, I think we have around 50 clinics.
Wow, that's amazing.
From Europe, yeah. And we're adding more every week. And there's also a feature in the app. So if you want to add a clinic, you can easily go into the app and just add your own clinic if you want to write a review, or if you want to highlight that one, and just share your recommendations. Because that was so hard for me, when you can Google and you can find different medical sites, but it's so hard to understand really what you said about, like, are the staff, are they empathic? Like, do they understand you? Do they have your treatment, etc.? So yeah, we really recommend anyone going through a treatment to go into the app and review their clinic so that they can help others to make their choice.
Wonderful. Well done on accessing, on providing this to anyone in Europe, and being able to go to clinics across the globe, like you said, so right across Europe. Like you said, there's so many clinics, some people doing genetic testing, some people specializing in certain testing for people that might have experienced perhaps implantation failure, or whatever the case might be. So it's important being able to know the right clinic to go to based on people's experiences and reviews. So for anyone living in Europe and looking to use BUMPY app, do you just go on the App Store and get it? Is it free? What's the procedure?
You can go to App Store or Google Play, download the app. It's free, completely free for the user. The only part in the app that you will have to pay for yourself, and that's mainly for the Swedish users. We have access to psychologists as well if they need that.
Oh, nice.
But just to access the app, access the community, access all our resources, which are available in English as well, you can just download the app for free and go there. And what we really want to highlight, as Elin said, I think on this journey, it's so important to get input from others. I have been having to find a clinic several times and you can end up at the wrong clinic or the wrong clinic for you per se. So having other people leave a review, if you've done a IVF treatment or whatever treatment at any clinic or gynecologist, make sure to leave a review, because that really helps someone else who's on the journey. As well, what we really want to do in our app is like that people can connect to the people that left the review, ask them more questions if they want to. So this is really about like sharing experiences and helping others.
So important. And can people reach out to each other as well? And perhaps, you never know, people might be living very close to each other.
Yes.
And maybe even have meetups or whatever the case.
Absolutely. Maybe. So you can chat with people directly. You get a chat request, so it doesn't just send to you, but if you accept it, you can. We also have different groups for different specific topics, like, for example, endometriosis or multiple pregnancy loss, etc. So yeah, it's really, really. We also have a feature actually where you can add your timeline, and also talking about what Elin mentioned before at the beginning, every fertility journey is tied to so many dreams and hopes. And, I've had so many baby names myself going through this journey, because every time you start a new one, you have like a name in mind that, okay, this time it's going to work and this is the person. And so we're actually doing like a campaign where we're raising awareness about this. And basically all the unborn baby names, we're collecting them, so you can actually anonymously add the name to help us raise awareness as well. So because in Sweden we have like this list that came out every year in January, where they the most popular baby names of the year for boys and girls are listed, and they stopping that list. And now we want to create this list this year, which is all the unborn babies. We call it the babies that are in our hearts but not our arms, because those are also important, right? So yeah, just another feature that we're doing to raise awareness.
That's really amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, go and add a name if you have one. We will share the list. It's completely anonymous in January to make sure we get people to understand that this is tough, especially those that are not going through it and that have easy.
Because those are the ones that don't understand what those names of the babies unborn mean.
Exactly.
Or when somebody uses that name that you've been trying to hope that, or you had for that baby that never came to be. So having such a list would be such a game changer, and will do so much in educating people and raising awareness, and hopefully letting people be kinder to others.
Exactly.
I think that's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was also going to say, just add to that we we're also launching the website, because that's important. Not everyone is downloading the app, just so you know, you can get all access to all of this and find all of this information on the BUMPY website as well. Just for the listener, if they want to find out more about what Andrea has been talking about.
Well done, ladies. You actually did so much to provide support. That's amazing. In this again, such highly taboo subjects, often stigmatized. There isn't a lot of people speaking about it. So thank you for creating such safe spaces for people to connect, to be able to feel seen, and to know that they're not alone. It's so important. And of course, we're realizing that infertility is rising globally. Now they say it's 1 in 6. It's a disease now as confirmed by WHO. So again, that's a lot of people. And oftentimes people might just not say anything, but they're dealing with it because they don't know someone else who is. So having your app, having your website really helps.
And also one thing we really want to highlight here, because I mean, I think you asked it before, I'm not sure if we answered it, like, who is the app for? Because of course a lot of our users are women, but what we really want to make sure also is very much well understood is infertility is not a female issue. Although we as women often have to carry the physical burden, going through the injections for IVF and like the physical part of going through a miscarriage, etc. Like, there is a man on the side for many. Some there isn't, of course, but infertility also affects men equally much. So it's not like, oh, it's the woman's fault, and it's, it affects men and women equally. And actually, male fertility has gone down very drastically the last 40 years. So just also something important to note, that it's not a female issue and it's not a women's issue, and people need to wake up to that as well.
So important. Thank you for highlighting that. I know that across the globe, people need more awareness about that. But definitely, I live in Nigeria, and for sure, that's something that we need this to be on the news every day, because every time a couple is struggling, no one ever wonders, could it be a male issue? It's always, it must be the woman. She must have done something. There's a reason why this is not happening.
Yeah, just imagine that burden that all these women have to carry. Like, it's not really right. And the issue, lies 50-50 if it's on the male side or on both, or not to be found, but it's not like a women's issue. I think that's, we definitely should highlight.
Yes, and even some men don't even go for testing because they think, it can't be me.
Yeah, actually, we hear that a lot in the startup world as well. Like, men, oh, I don't have an issue with this. It becomes such a defensive comment almost so often, which is really bizarre. Like I don't know, is the manhood crushed or whatnot? But it becomes a big thing. I hear that so often when we talk about and explain what we're doing with BUMPY, and often males are very defensive about this.
Yeah, and to add on that, exactly what you said, Andrea, themselves never have had any issues, and they also don't know anyone. So everyone is always like, oh, because we're talking to lots of investors, and for obvious reasons, there are many middle-aged men we're talking to. But statistically, like Andrea said, like, this is in 50% of the cases, it's on the male side. So statistically, it doesn't add up that none of the men we're talking to don't even know anyone going through issues, but women do. So that's, absolutely, definitely even more of a taboo on the male side. Something we need to put a spotlight on.
Yes, and I'm so glad. I'm not sure if you saw a post. There's a post I put up yesterday by a guy that just died, British poet and novelist that died last week, Benjamin Zephaniah, I believe his name. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but he had male infertility and spoke a lot about it to raise awareness, because he also expressed how sad and how devastating it was for him, and how he still never got through it, even as he got older. He died at 65, and he wrote that last year, 64, and saying how it still impacted him so much. So I'm glad that there was a voice like that speaking about it, and that hopefully we keep having more people raising awareness about that reality. And to provide more support for men as well, because, I mean, everyone needs support. But again, like you highlighted, there's so much ego attached to it, and masculinity, and people feeling like, well, if that's happening, that they might feel like less of a man. So we need support to let people know it doesn't really change who you are. Infertility is a disease. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. More male voices speaking up about these issues as well, for sure. Very important.
Yeah, and hopefully that would impact yourselves when you do reach out to these investors. The more they see that it impacts everybody, not just women.
Exactly. And that's also why we so often, it's not that I'm surprised, but I get annoyed that they put us in the femtech space, and we're trying to tell them fertility is not femtech, that's human tech. But for some reason they hear fertility and, oh, that's on a female issue, so that's femtech. It's not.
Yeah, definitely need more awareness. How can people support? So I guess, of course, BUMPY app, like you said, it's free for everyone to use. It does cost a lot of money to create apps, to keep doing all that you're doing and creating that support and awareness. So for anyone listening, how can this support BUMPY and help you to reach more people?
I mean, it would be really fantastic, first of all, to download the app, check it out, but tell someone you know about it, like share the word about Bumpy. As we said before, like if you've had a fertility treatment or like fertility testing done at a clinic, share your experiences. That's the most important thing, because you're not only helping us, Bumpy, you're helping so many thousands of people that are navigating the journey. So that's the most important thing, to help others, but it will also help Bumpy. Share your experiences.
Exactly. And if they want to do that on the website, just to mention it, so that's bumpyclinics.com, where they can go in and just super easily write a review. And as Andrea said, that will help so many others coming after who's on the hunt for the right fertility clinic.
Exactly.
Amazing.
For the app, if you search in App Store, Google Play, Bumpy with a P, Bumpy, like a bumpy road to a baby bump.
Is that where the name came up?
Exactly. Bumpy road. So if you type in Bumpy app, you should find it.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Well done, ladies. And are you planning to perhaps in the near future visit more clinics then, to check some of your clinics on your app?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Given what you've done so far, and of course your experience starting creating the app and constantly creating awareness, providing more support for people still on their journeys, what would you say? How would you say infertility has changed you through the years?
Oh, yeah. I think me and Elin talk about this a lot, about my personal journey, but I've been extremely unlucky in everything I've started and new processes and stuff. But I've become very, it's hard for me to not expect something bad to happen sometimes, like I expect the worst quite often. And that's what has changed, because even though I think I've been quite good at coming out of it again and finding hope again and trying again, I think how it's changed me, that I trust in people, and like it's difficult, and also like being a little bit more negative when it comes to expectations, and like I think that's how it's changed me for sure.
It's hard for that not to happen, isn't it? Because infertility can be so long and so much, no certainties whatsoever, no guarantees, even though we see every time on the internet IVF led to twins and it's obviously not the reality. Seems like you're gambling away money each time you do it, but do it because you hope for, and your dreams are attached to that potential outcome.
Exactly. And I mean, the financial aspect, I mean, you have so many parts. You have the physical aspect, and you have the emotional aspect, and the financial one we don't talk about enough maybe, but I mean, it's crazy. We just before we joined, we were talking about this, but like the amount of money spent, it's crazy. And but you still have this hope, and I mean, in a sense, like that's one of the big challenges for a lot of people as well. IVF is expensive.
Yeah,
it's really expensive, and fertility treatments are expensive. And yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that part as well.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that across the globe that somehow there'll be more support from the government, from employers, for people to see, because again, even many insurance companies don't cover fertility because they think it's some kind of elective procedure. You're choosing to do this instead of just doing it at home. And it's like, no, it's a disease. And just like you cover other conditions, you should cover this. So again, that's another aspect that is still not being addressed, but of course it impacts so many. Like, doesn't matter how rich you might be, the money is it's just way too expensive for each cycle.
Exactly. And then as we hear from our users as well. I mean, in Sweden, you're lucky if you have a medical condition, you can get 3 rounds
Wow.
by the government. But of course, people also have very unrealistic expectations often and think like, oh, I'll do IVF and then I will get my baby. And that's not reality for many of us, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, 3 rounds is maybe not enough for a lot of people, and you would need to expect at least 3 rounds unless you're one of the lucky ones that succeeds on the first try.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's definitely more awareness about the fact that it's not guaranteed. I thought the first time, well, actually, when we got advised and we decided to proceed with IVF, I was like, oh, okay, this is good. You know, pretty straightforward. 9 months, twins. Let's just do 1 boy, 1 girl. You know, I think back and I thought, how silly was I? But that's what I thought, because that's all I saw in the media, in the magazines. So it just seemed like, you know, it's just something you just choose what you want and it just happens. But of course, knowing what I know now, that is so not the reality.
No, exactly. It's I think that's something education needs to be better as well. Like, what does it actually entail, and to get realistic expectations, because I think that's also where you get like really, really disappointed when you think, okay, but now we're doing this. Okay, we put all our money in that, like this is going to work, and then it doesn't, and you get so disappointed each time. So I think having expectations that this might not work, but we have a lot of hope, and then just being a little bit more realistic about that as well, I think would help.
Yeah, and I can only relate to that, exactly what you said. Like, everyone told me the same thing when we were going through the miscarriages, like, well, just do IVF. And I was like, okay, that's how it works. So I had that same feeling. I was like, okay, we can just pay and then our issues will be gone. But yeah, 13 embryo transfers and nothing came out of that. So yeah, definitely the realistic aspect is yeah, important. And that is also just thinking about like what this journey has taught me. It's like this thing that like everyone is battling their own fights. Be kind to people, because that's something that I really put the mask on, and I was so happy. I went to work, was like pretending outwards like nothing was impacting me, and I came home devastated, crying, and I just like it was horrible to play those 2 different roles. And then just like understanding that people go through so much that we don't see on the outside. So just in general, keeping that in mind, whatever it is, if it's infertility or if it's something else, but just generally be kinder to people.
Well said. And if you could go back in time, ladies, to your 18-year-old self, or perhaps 21, or that young age where, you know, everything seemed perfect, and what will you tell her?
Wow. That's I haven't thought about that one actually. Back to the 18-year-old. I would say, well, in my case, I can't really say it's going to be okay in the end, but I still believe it's going to be okay in the end, even though I'm not there yet.
Yes.
But just be patient and live life to the fullest, enjoy all the moments through the tough times.
Yeah, and I can agree with what you just said, Andrea, and also the importance of, you don't have to be strong all the time. It's 100% fine to be weak and to have those moments, and you don't have to, what I just talked about as well, like to pretend to be strong for anyone else. Very important thing I would say to myself as an 18-year-old.
Actually, now that you said that, Elin, actually there is one thing, because I haven't really done that before, but I'm learning to do that, is, you know, you can say no to many things. You don't have to go to baby showers or family events. You don't have to be there at Christmas. You can do your own Christmas somewhere. Like, you don't have to feel that you have to put yourself in situations where you don't feel comfortable. And I'm still learning to do that, to be honest. So, but going back to my 18-year-old self, I would tell them, start earlier with trying to figure out what's best for you. And if you don't feel okay, then don't do it. There is no reason to put ourselves into situations where we don't feel comfortable, that we know that's going to trigger us, where we leave worse than when we went in. I'm still learning to do that myself, to be honest, but I think that's what I would tell myself. Set boundaries, or try and set boundaries.
So important. Well said, ladies. And, because we are in the festive season and getting towards the end of the year, that is so important, right? Knowing it's okay to not go to that party, or even at any point in time for baby showers. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not happy for that person, right? Because I think people that are not experiencing infertility don't understand that. They think that, oh, perhaps you're jealous and you're just being bitter. And it's like, well, no, it's just, you don't know what that person is experiencing. You don't know if they just have another failed cycle or loss or whatever the case might be. And you shouldn't have to put all that aside and somehow go there and laugh and pretend everything is okay when it's not.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly.
Thank you so much, ladies. And as a wrap up, any words of encouragement or advice for anyone currently navigating their fertility journeys?
Patience. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay if you don't feel good. Just let the feelings come. And try and find a support network or your support system, whatever that might be. If that's an online community, if that's a friend you can confide in, if that's your family. I mean, it's different for everyone, but find a support system that can help you through this. Maybe that's a psychologist. Like, it's really depends on you, but acknowledge your feelings, and it's okay, whatever they might be.
Yeah, Andrea said it so well, so I don't think I have to add anything. I can just empathize the what you said about like setting boundaries and putting yourself first, and that's perfectly okay, and that's what you should do, and don't compromise on your own feelings for someone else in this journey. It can be long and tough. It's always tough, and it can be really long. So yeah, remembering to be nice to yourself as well.
Thank you so much, ladies. It has really been amazing having you both here. It seems like with your wealth, well, I shouldn't say wealth, because with your experience, because you don't want to make it sound like this is good. Nobody wants to go through a fertility journey, but over the years, you do have a lot of experience with your own personal journeys, but with also connecting with other people. And of course, now creating this amazing app, BUMPY, to support other people. Well done. And thank you so much for all that you're doing. Of course, fertility and infertility is still highly stigmatized. So choosing to share your stories, to come out there, to be vulnerable, and to provide to support other people is really amazing. That's the reality. And I just want to thank you for all that you're doing, hoping that when we do meet again, perhaps we can have this. I know we met in person earlier this year. I hope that in the near future we can meet again and all meet with our babies. It'll be amazing. But thank you so much for taking out of your busy schedules to come and share your experience and to share how you're supporting people all across Europe. What you're doing is so amazing, so helpful. Is helping people to not have to go through the difficult journey just by themselves, but also having someone and other people guide them through the whole process. If we had had that early in our journeys, it could have made things a little easier. So thank you so much.
And thank you so much for all that you do. Yeah, I mean, you with your platform, you're helping so many people as well. Keep that in mind. So thank you for having us. And I look forward to the day we meet when we all have our babies. That is going to happen.
It will, for sure.
Yes, I'm holding on to that. And those babies, we're going to tell them what we did.
Exactly.
All we did to make this a reality.
Exactly. So, but yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we so glad we got to come and speak on your podcast. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you ladies, and hope we have you again in the near future. Thank you, and well done on all you're doing with BUMPY.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Fertility Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Fertility Conversations. If there are any topics you would like to have discussed, please send an email to fertilityconversations@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you again for listening. Take care of yourself and do stay hopeful.